Hi, I love Shockwave community. Today I have a special guest, Eric. How to pronounce your last name properly?
Is Dzwonkowski, like a swan sitting on a cow skiing down the mountain.
Wow. Dzwonkowski. Okay. Yes. So Eric Dzwonkowski from Denver, Colorado. And he joined me today from actually our I Love Shockwave headquarters. And how cold is outside today? It's like minus 40 in Celsius with wind chill. I
Yeah,
don't know that in Fahrenheit.
it couldn't be any colder.
Exactly. Right.
It's at its full max.
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah. So, what do you do, Eric? What is your professional
I'm
background?
a chiropractor
Yeah.
from Denver, Colorado. My name is Dr. Eric Dzwonkowski, and I've been doing chiropractic for about 10, little over 10 years.
Okay.
And it's my second career. I was IT consultant back in the day when I first graduated undergrad, and then I was 30. I went back to school to become a chiropractor, which I love, and I just kind of loved troubleshooting things in life and was excited to troubleshoot the human body instead of a computer.
Wow, wow. But when we actually think even human body, it's a computer. It's a software and hardware, right? So
Yes, it's the most intelligent of all computers. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So, wow, that's very interesting, actually. Very interesting. So, uh, because this podcast is dedicated mainly to shockwave therapy, but then we're gonna cover kind of anything in it and everything in between. So, when did you hear for the first time about shockwave?
So I had a patient of mine. Our my daughter dances with her daughter, and we're in the same kind of parent community during dancing class in for our kids. And then they became patients of mine in my chiropractic practice over the years. And then Kathleen came to me one day with, "Hey, have you ever heard of Shockwave? You have to have this in your office." And I was like, "No, what's Shockwave?" And let's. I'm watching my daughter dance.
Yeah.
And then with her persistence, she just kept feeding me information, emails, text messages, lunch meetings, and she had an amazing story of her own, which completely Shockwave fixed her shoulder so she could continue being a golf pro. And with that story and her persistence, I started slowly learning Shockwave. And we started off very, very simple with the Radial device. And I thought all of Shockwave was the same. So I went through my learning curves. And from the Radial device, we got into the EMTT technology in our office for about a year. And then now we just added another machine for the focus. So now we have the suite of all three, and it's pretty exciting right now.
Wow, wow. I know. That's why you're honestly in Edmonton learning now hands-on in minus 30, right?
And mine is 30. I can't leave.
Like
All I can do is learn. I can't go outside. You
so
trapped me.
so I want to actually because as we all know, shockwave, especially in North America, it's almost like have been dictated by people that sold the devices and anything and everything it's available. So I want to kind of learn. I want to learn your story, kind of when you got the device, or like how did you start it with the Radial. So we're gonna kind of, because for so many practitioner that is somebody that just like never heard about shockwave, I want now
Yeah.
to break this down and kind
Okay.
of reverse engineer. Like, We're going to talk about the radial, kind of your experience. Then once you added the EMTT, what has changed now? What was the focal? Because you're already now pro. You're now expert on the shockwave, so you kind of now understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But as you know, it's very hard for a lot of practitioners to grasp the differences. So
Yeah. Okay.
when you got the radial, did you had any training, or how did that started, and how that was working for what you were treating?
Yeah. Okay. So, and this is probably about a year ago. We started, Kathleen and I went ahead and we purchased, we actually got 2 units at the same time. We did get the Radial and the EMTT together.
Okay.
And the salespeople showed up, set everything up for us, and turned all the machines on and gave us a quick little intro of, hey, this is how this works. This is how this works with the EMTT. You might have to change the water. Here's the maintenance to it. Literally 1 hour of overview, and gave us a book that had some protocols in it
Correct.
for the radial, not for the EMTT. And the EMTT, which I'll come back to, is pretty much like the wild, wild west right now.
Yeah.
You really have to go out and try to find how to use it to its best efficiencies, which I'll get into. But we had the radial and the MTT, and we had a book with protocols. And the biggest thing I can, talk about from my experience is the importance of training. I mean, the sales guy walked out, and we were super eager, and we want to, I really want to help people get better. I want them to have long lasting results. And that's also, I want to educate them that they do have to take care of their body. So if they're not taking care of their body, they will end up back in the same situation. So we are, big on education, but we're really excited that the radial could do something different in my practice that, would help with all of the soft tissue and the functionality from a soft tissue, muscle, ligament perspective. And being a chiropractor, I don't typically did not work with that. I would refer out for those kinds of things, for PT,
Yeah.
acupuncture, massage. I saw myself as a structural chiropractor, 100% believe the body heals itself. So I'm a subluxation based chiropractor. So I do tap into that inner intelligence, the innate intelligence the body has. And so by getting the radial, I was like, great, I can treat soft tissue now. And then I should be able to really take these patients to the ultimate level, and they should have, back to their normal activities and teach them about maintenance, and life is great. So we get the radial, and we got a book with some protocols, and we just start using it. And we just started using it on patients, plantar fasciitis, mostly extremity issues, tennis elbow, not really for the spine or for the low back. I saw it first as, extremity issues, not even really too much of the hips. So it was really extremity use at the beginning. And we just went at it, and then we're like, oh wow, did I do the right protocol? Did that help? Did it not? And it kind of created a little bit of uncertainty of what are we doing? Is it right? Is it wrong? And then we just started seeing some results with patients. And then people would come in, and honestly, probably about 60% of the patients all had great success stories right from the get go. So it kind of was easy, um, and like we thought. And then we had that, 30% that, this person did not respond the way we thought they would. What else is going on? So then, after that, it turned into, after a couple months, there was a big buzz in the office. We didn't do a lot of marketing, but just with my patients and some of our community connections, we were pretty busy right off the get go. And, we saw probably 25 patients in that first 2 months, and then got really busy. And we could have done a little better with some of our systems and tracking some metrics and things, but we were just seeing patients. and trying to figure out what to charge. So we went through all those like business things on the
Yeah.
fly. We didn't have it figured out beforehand. We just started using the machine and seeing what kind of results we could get. And then after about 6 months, we kind of looked back at everything and said, hey, this stuff is working. These areas it's not working. And then we started exploring with the EMTT.
Okay.
And then with the EMTT, it really became how does this really fit? Should we do it before the treatment, after the treatment? What would be the best approach? And we started researching it. We started calling people. Is it good for osteoarthritis? Is it good for tears? Is it good for whatever? And then we just kind of realized it's an optimizer. And if anybody's familiar with the EMTT, the best way I could explain it is it really allows the cells to open up their cellular kind of communication gates and enhances the body's own internal communication within wherever you put it so that it connects the body's area back to the brain. And then if you go ahead and put in a treatment of any kind of sort, that treatment is just going to it's going to function better because you just opened up the body's internal communication at a cellular level to be open to respond something. So it almost takes away the interference of the body in that area. And we tell our patients your cells can get in a hibernated state, a static state, and the electromagnetic energy excites that, makes it dynamic and makes it more communicative as opposed to static.
Yeah.
And then we started using the combination of those two more and continued to get some good results, better than average results, and we're still learning. And then
Yeah.
finally, maybe after about 6 months, after a lot of research, calling sales reps, calling people, trying to connect with doctors who have one in Indiana, one in Denver, one in all over the place, a few phone calls, just realized it's that there's not a lot of standard protocols. It's a little bit of the wild west, and I still have my practice seeing my normal patients, and there's that there's just that excitement of there's something more that could be incorporated between the chiropractic and the shockwave. And we really treated it as two separate businesses, two separate kind of you come in for Cairo or you come in for regen is what we
Yeah.
called it, regen 3. And then we kind of stumbled on some training. We found I Love Shockwave on the internet, and I'm not sure you're on exactly how I got your name,
Yeah.
but we I think I found you on a podcast just searching, and I loved Uran's message, which is like I'm here to teach people, to help people, to make people's lives different. And then that really resonated with me because that's why I do chiropractic. I love, teaching people how to take care of themselves and letting them know that they have to just kind of stop sometimes and just slow down and really understand they're responsible for their own health. And if they want to get better, there's ways for them to get better, but they have to maybe change the way they're doing some things, and we have to educate them on that. And I do believe in, doing something to get I'm doing this to get people results. And
Yeah.
so the way Euron explained in his training, that's what his intention was. It just resonated with me. So then I started watching his videos, and from there it was constant, hey, can I get a Zoom call with you? Can I get a second Zoom call with you? I got to
Yeah.
get this training. And then we finally went in and got all of his training and connected with them. And then it's just been so much different from a perspective of understanding what all of Shockwave is. So before meeting Euron and getting his training, I just didn't understand the differences between the focus device and the radial device and the EMTT and all the other shockwave systems that are out there. It's it's very unclear to the patients and even to the doctors of what things do and don't do. So there's a huge learning curve once you really dive in to understand how you treat a patient and diagnose them and then set up a care plan that really is specific to what their needs are. And chiropractic completely falls into place with a care plan using Shockwave, and it really has the same principles of the body heals itself. So
Exactly. Exactly.
the Shockwave to the Radial device does something little different than the Focus device, and
Yes.
the EMT does something different. When you have the suite of
Yes.
that, and then you have the actual manual adjusting of turning on the body's true range of motion and the brain body communication. It's just, I mean, they just fit together and complement each other so well. And we just recently got the Focus device, so we're just going to start using that in these next couple months, which we're really excited about, which is why I'm here
Yeah.
today, is to learn how the Focus really changes the playing field from a practitioner standpoint to help people with the Radial and EMTT.
Yeah. Wow. Wow, Eric. This is unbelievable, the insight, and thank you for sharing all those, because I resonate myself. This is again the vision, and especially I even say to a lot of clients, I don't think so. There's a better combination between Chiro and Shockwave, especially manual adjustments, because with radial pressure wave, radial shockwave, you take care of the soft tissues. With manual adjustment, you take care of the joint, and then there's a regeneration. Those two like just merge together. So now you have, for example, the focal. You're going to be able to reach much deeper into joint capsule, treat deep inflammation in the joint, stimulate stem cell activation, activate angiogenesis and all of that. And on top of that, with the EMTT, just to kind of a term that I came up with, it's a cell supercharger. So it just enhances everything that you're doing. It just works much better. So I'm gonna just kind of go back, because I'm curious, and this is honestly, I never asked you this. Like, since you got the training, did anything change specifically to how you were treating to now? Did you notice any difference in the clients or conditions that you were treating?
Oh yes, the let's say the I don't want to say the success rate, but the patient satisfaction um, from us educating them of really what's happening was probably the most important part of that. So by
Okay.
doing your training, it allowed us to understand the differences between the radial and the focus in the EMTT. So now when we were treating our patients, we're actually educating them the differences in their own body, so that, I'm just a believer, if they're educated in the process, they're going to
Yeah.
understand that they have to take care of themselves just a little bit better. And so now we really know, how radial fits in and how it complements focus, and how you said the EMTT
Yeah.
supercharges it. So now when a patient comes in, our table talk and our education talk is right spot on. As before, it was just like, hey, you're getting
Yeah.
Shockwave, and we're just doing all these things to you. Versus now, the training has allowed us to really understand it's not just, a modality. Shockwave is probably marketed the wrong way, would you say?
Yeah.
It's it's kind of like good and bad. It's like, just because you have Shockwave doesn't necessarily mean I everyone kind of does it a little differently. But when you really understand through the training of what you have and how it functions, and you educate your patients, then that really changes their experience to the point where I think we end up getting more referrals, we get more testimonials, and people just understand it better. And we as a practitioner understand it better. So we're obviously giving better care, quality of care at the same time. And then sometimes the patients are getting more success, but we're also learning, oh, this is why you're not maybe getting better. And now we have to do this, and this
Yeah.
is where the real issue is. And we're able to peel those layers of the onion off to give better
Exactly.
quality of care. So it's helped
Exactly.
us diagnose things better, instead of just, oh, let's apply the shockwave or these devices and just send you home and you should be better. So it's
Yeah.
given us better education to educate our patients,
Yes.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
it's given us better understanding of when something doesn't go the way it's supposed to. We still have to be the doctor, use our doctor skills and our care plan management, and oh, explain to them this is, this has changed. Now this is maybe really where the problem is, and now we can treat it this way.
Yeah.
Does that kind of make
See,
sense?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And exactly it. So I come from a private practice, and I always say we get paid based on results. Like when clients come in and see us, they don't, care much about the science or a lot of things. They need help. They're asking for help. And if we produce results for them, then we're going to get referral, we're going to get word of mouth. It's going to help us and it helps them. So, yeah, I want just to kind of one more thing, and it's obviously I didn't ask you those questions. Was there any difference in terms of customization of the protocols? Did you notice that any change when you were treating clients based on the pain level that they were experiencing during the treatment, like before and after the training?
Yeah, so the satisfaction of the results as well as the patient treatments 100% went up once we learned the different parameters of the
Yeah.
protocols. So we would, the salesperson would just say, and they're just, they're not wrong. They're just doing their best
Yes.
they can do.
Exactly. Exactly.
And they're just like, oh, keep it at, you know, 15 megahertz and, energy of 3, and here's a book, and just follow the book, and it's just so much more than that. So your protocols, break it down into different megahertz, different part of the body, different energy, to the point where you're not overstimulating things, where we were for sure overstimulating things when we first started, with the best of intentions, wanting this person to get better,
Yeah.
just thinking the more we go, the better it is. And then after, going through your protocols in certain areas of the body, slowing down and giving less energy is better than providing, high energy. So it's allowed us to learn the differences of that. And
Yeah.
once we made those small little things, the body's still benefiting no matter what we do, but they're
Exactly.
benefiting more
Exactly.
specifically. And then we're getting those quicker results with certain patients, because of that, your learning curve that you've learned, and sharing those real
Yes.
clinical skills is hugely important. And again, it just improves our confidence, and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
treatments go a little faster because you're not, uncertain. If you can, if you can, our understanding and our clarity is so much better with these protocols than not knowing anything, trying to do the best. So it's really eliminated time for us, quicker visits, patients are more satisfied, and it's more specific to why, what the problem is.
Yeah. 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 I know. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, because it honestly it motivates me and pushes me even more to create more protocol and fine tune those, because the thing is, in the end of the day, we want to be hero to the patient, to the client.
Right.
So we need the manufacturers, to make beautiful tools. We need the distributors to make those tools available for us and to have the technical support. But then practitioners, need the proper training, and then all those come together, and the patient benefits, and then more people we can change, more people we can help, more pain we can bring down. It overall it transfers. It's one ecosystem. It's like, whether you want to call it karma, whether you want to call it, smart business, whether you want to call it like successful businesses, and money comes when you actually solve problems. And the faster you solve a problem, the faster it actually pays you back. So one thing that I know, because I do this honestly for free currently, for as much as I can push and do it, because it's very busy, even for me personally. But there are a lot of practitioners out there looking, to get into the shockwave, or starting with shockwave. So what would you say to somebody that it's kind of has like looking, oh, there's no, many people I hear, it's like many practitioners say, oh, there's no enough scientific evidence. If you go in PubMed, Shockwave has been used since 90s. It's just you probably did not read enough or looked enough. There is more than enough science that prove how Shockwave therapy works. The other thing that I see a lot, it's price, because yeah, those devices are not, TENS machine, IFC machines. They're expensive technology, and they typically, best Shockwave devices, personal experience, come from Europe, because that's where everything started. So if there's a chiropractor, if there's a physiotherapist, if there's a doctor that is looking to get in Shockwave, is it worth it to invest from your perspective? Even though you shared everything, like how much it helped, but would you say
Yeah,
it's worth the investment?
yeah, I'd say it's 100% worth the investment. But you have to do your homework.
Okay.
You know, if you wanna be most successful right off the get go, you have to do your homework and spend the time understanding the technologies of each device and how they fit in, and then ask yourself as a practitioner, you know, with my practice, whatever your practice is and whatever your niche is of the type of patients you're attracting and want to help, which one of those technologies is going to fit best. And it could be all three, but it could be just one or two. They each do something a little differently. And it's really good to understand those differences before you start, so that when you get your device, you already know what your expectations are
Yes.
with your patients. Because they're, you know, and I'm still learning. I just learned
Yeah.
the Focus device, and I was just like, whoa, like, this is really, really different and cool. And all these, I sometimes, and this is good for me to share, is I tried making the Radial device work like a Focus device probably every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not a Focus device. And so, you know, for the patient's sake, you want to get the most out of that device that you can, but you're not going to make it work like another device. Does that kind of
Yeah.
make sense? So,
Yes.
so
Yes.
you really need to understand where your boundaries are. And sometimes as a practitioner, it's hard. Like, well, I really want to do a little more, but this is where this kind of stops. And knowing that, well, maybe I need another one of these systems to go a little further in that
Yeah.
process, and understanding that before you get in, so you know those boundaries, and doing the training, you know, some kind of a boot camp before you start, I think would be
Exactly.
absolutely beneficial and necessary before you just start using it. That
Yeah.
would be my 2 cents. Is it's absolutely worth the money. You got to have a business plan. You can't just, you know, throw it in your office and just start treating everybody, because then the patients just think it's a modality that
Yes.
they it's just part of their service. You know, it's not covered in insurance. I have an insurance practice, so it's a little challenging. No, that's not covered. This is something different. You're gonna have to pay for it. So you have to go through that change management in your office. Even your exams could kind of change slightly, because you want to now start assessing more soft tissue issues, so that you can include that in your care plans. Would be beneficial. So a little bit of a boot camp, and I'd say probably 1 to 3 months of getting yourself organized on the business numbers, the actual understanding of the devices you're getting and
Yes.
their boundaries, and then how it's going to change your patient flow to your appointments. I struggled at the beginning. I'm adjusting, then I'm running over and doing a shockwave
Yes. Yeah.
treatment. Now I got 3 people waiting in the room for me. I'm having fun doing the shockwave stuff, but now people are waiting for me for just an adjustment. So that there's some change management that
Yes.
you for sure have to think about. And, oh, you know, getting connected in this community and asking other doctors. Everybody knows we're always willing to share information and best practices. And there's no perfect way to get through it, but the more you're prepared and understand, the more you're going to succeed quicker, faster.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, it's way more powerful. Shockwave is way more powerful than just a modality, because I've seen some practitioner looks at, oh, it's just like a TENS machine or IFC machine. No, it's a whole different animal. It's completely different, and
Yeah.
it reaches much deeper. Body responds so quick, so it's not
Yeah, and
just
it's
like applying it.
and that's a great point. I left this all out in the whole process of this is, I mean, Shockwave is something special is going on in there, and I
Yeah,
don't know what it is. But again, I'm a chiropractor, and I believe the body heals itself. And 100%, when you deliver the focus device and it connects to the body neurologically somehow, and again, I don't know the physics to it, but it is connecting to that spot in the body, and it's sending signals to their brain, and it's changing something.
yeah.
And what happens the most, and this is hard for practitioners, and this is our education, is it's not pain management. And this is, we
It's
have to
not
go over
exactly,
this all the
exactly.
time. Our
Yeah,
patients, the ones who don't succeed, it's mainly because they don't understand they have to wait and let the body heal. They
yeah,
come in and they, even though we tell them this is not pain management, they want to feel different the next day. And the principles of the body are more true in Shockwave than anything else, where you have to get, 3 to 5 treatments, and you have to wait 4 weeks after that, no matter
yes,
what devices you're using. You
yes,
got to let your body heal. You got to slow the patient down and educate them just to relax and let that healing and the magic of their own body healing and recovering work within those 4 weeks before they start seeing results. And that's probably the biggest thing that we've heard is like patients will, after a third visit, they're like, yeah, I feel better. And then we won't hear them for a while. We'll do a phone call and they'll come back in like, I feel 100%. And
yeah,
they forgot they even came in 4 months ago, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I had that problem," and they're dealing with something else.
yeah,
Our
yeah,
our patients are living in a society that is so chaotic and so overstimulated that they even forget why they originally came in, and you have to like knock them on the head and be like, "Do you remember you couldn't put your shirt on and your shoulder's 100%
yeah,
fine?" And
yeah, yeah,
you're just like, and that healing happened without them even knowing it, and they're so
exactly,
disconnected from that.
exactly,
So, and Shockwave really is amazing, but we have to really, it's almost good to send them reminders in their healing phase and connect with them remotely to remind them that this is still going on.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting, and great. Thank you again. You pretty much hitting all the spots. It's like shockwave is a modality that is going to influence the software and the hardware of the body all at the same time. Like the moment that it hits the skin, especially with the focal, you pretty much influencing everything from the skin down to the bone. It's not like just, for example, passively contracting the muscle. And then there's a biological response from that stimulation. And because healing comes gradual from within, people adapt to the change because if things are normal, there's no symptoms. Like the nervous system doesn't give any symptoms. So that's why it's what you're mentioning. It's critical to remind people that, hey, uh, this is going to be a slow regenerative process, and you can use shockwave, for symptomatic treatment, because it's still very powerful tool for pain in general and loosening up the structures. But the ultimate effect of the shockwave is the repair, is the regeneration. Like the pain goes away as a result of body actually repairing and healing itself. So, have you had any interesting case that's stuck on your mind that like?
Um, you're putting me on the spot now.
I know.
I mean, I'm sure I do. I mean, I'm gonna talk a little about the EMTT because that's probably the
Yes, yes,
less
yeah,
talked about
yeah,
one. So
yeah,
EMTT, this happens quite often, not 100% of the time, but 75% of the time. I'll be adjusting patients. They'll come in and oh my God, I tore my hamstring, yesterday, or tweaked my ankle, and just a really fresh acute injury. It's not torn. It's just inflamed, right? It's a mild strain, and I'll put the EMTT on there for 4,000 units one time after the adjustment, and then
Yeah,
they'll come back the next day or in 2 days and they're 100%.
I know, I
So
know,
that
I know.
recovery, that one session in those acute times
Cases.
of these patients, the EMTT just corrects it and gets the body back in sync, and it's all
Yes,
gone, which could
yeah,
have taken, up to 4 to 7 days in a normal situation. And it does seem to work better with patients who have a better medium in their body,
yes.
so that, the EMTT does seem to work a little more efficient with people who are maybe more active than sedentary.
Yes, yeah, yeah. I've seen it, it's interesting. So EMTT, just for listeners who are not familiar what it is. So it's an electromagnetic transduction therapy. So it shoots with electromagnetic field. So cells have a positive electric charge to function properly and to like ion channels to open and close. So what stores in particular, because like electromagnetic fields have actually existed since like I think 80s or 90s, like PAMP machines, pulse electromagnetic fields. But then with advancement in science and research, they learned that they weren't producing enough energy to trigger biological response. So now with EMTT, it produces enough energy to trigger this biological response. And it's correct, like people that and part of the reason I think that people that are more active respond better and faster is just because their metabolism, their biology, it's more optimized. So it just needs a little bit push and then it does the work. Where people that don't do much, there's a lot of inflammation. Even on those cases, honestly, I've seen a big change in the swelling. So EMTT for like treating inflammation, reducing inflammation, I never seen anything more powerful. One thing that EMTT does not do, it does not physically influence tissue changes. Like what we can do with the radial or the focal, because both the radial and the focal, radial it's more a kinetic pressure, focal is pure sound wave, but they work through mechanotransduction. So you can actually release a muscle that it's tied by doing those. And then in the end, the EMTT and even the soreness that typically happens after shockwave, combining that with EMTT, it actually reduces the the soreness. So there's a lot into it, and that's why
Yeah.
uh,
I have
with
one more.
our
I have one more. Yeah, one more story for you.
yes
Then I just popped in my head. So recently, I have a cousin who flew into Denver from Minnesota, and he's had a bad knee for years, meniscus. He's just been putting off getting surgery. And so he was in town. We just got our focused machine. So I literally is probably the second person I'm experimenting with, just trying to learn,
yeah
right? Because it's
yeah
before this training that I came to here. So I just put it on his knee, did it the first day he was in town, and we did it the last day before he left. So we got 2 sessions in probably about 6 days. And he texted me randomly, I think last week. He's like, "Hey, I want to come back to see you. I want to do that treatment one more time. My knee's a lot better." And I didn't even really explain to him other than like, "Oh, you got a meniscus problem. I need to practice. So
yeah.
let me do
Let
this."
me
And he
teach you.
wasn't really a patient, and he's calling me now and like, "Hey, can I come back and see you in Denver? Because I want to do another treatment. Because his knee was feeling better." So I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
we weren't even trying. I was just practicing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's I know it's honestly it's very powerful technology. It's unbelievable technology. So and that's why I think because if it was something that had more side effect and more potential of injuries, even though there's no regulation to enforce any provider in North America to take training, I think like providers or like healthcare providers would be able to, they would be pushed more in force to get the training. But the good thing of the shockwave that even if you don't use it properly, you're still gonna get,
Yeah.
results. And that's why
Right.
they
Right.
think it's like, but then they don't realize that actually there's so many more levels that you can get even better results. Customize
Exactly.
it. There's
Yeah.
there's a lot more into it.
And I
So
and I
it,
think
yeah,
even at your training today, I think we're still learning.
exactly,
The
exactly.
training that you have is creating, an environment to keep learning, and
Yeah,
I think you keep learning things as you're
yeah,
doing more training.
yes,
And the human body is just we don't know anything about it. It's just amazing. And when you can really have something that can make a change the way it does and affect that neurology,
yeah.
it makes our jobs more fun, and helping people more fun.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, it's even after, like, I've been doing Shockwave since 2011, and even after, probably I'm by now over 40, but last time when I checked, long time ago, it was over 35,000 treatments. It still amazes me. It's not something like I can never, I never get bored. It's like there's always some new nuance that of response from the treatment, even treating the same client, or like a new condition. So it's truly amazing. And when you look at, it started as a kidney stone treatment, like as a little chopper treatment. Then it went to like orthopedics. Then it went to urology, sexual health, aesthetics. Now they do it for heart regeneration. They do it, for brain. So I don't know where it's gonna end, but it's so good to be part of this momentum, this shockwave, right?
Yeah. Oh
That
yeah.
it's shocking everything. It's just
And
you
it
and me here. We want to protect, the field, because it's been built up gradually. And if we don't use it properly, if we don't actually protect it, then it will damage the field as a big thing. So that's why it's so good to get like part of like shockwave groups, whoever is doing, conferences, learn, get together, learn more. Because even with all this experience, I actually learned something from you, like a slight technique, slight change, and then that's how we make it better.
Yeah, and one thing I will say about the training was, this training is super hands-on, right?
Yeah.
You're not sitting at a desk, you're doing, right? And you pointed out to me one thing that it really stuck with me yesterday is, and this is what I love about our jobs, whether you're a chiropractor, PT, exercise, kinesiology, whatever it is, when you're working with a person and you're connecting with them and you're treating them, and whether you're trying to release a muscle or adjust a joint in the body and remove a subluxation, you feel it when it happens.
Yes.
And what I learned yesterday is that with this technology, you when you apply it the right way and you learn how to use the techniques and you use the protocols, you are going to feel it. Like, I saw you feel how you can feel a headache get released when
Yes.
you're using the tools. So, and that's what my biggest learning point was coming in. I'm like, oh, this is just an instrument, I'm putting it on and I'm doing these areas. But just like when I adjust, when I'm holding that instrument, I'm still connected to that person.
Yes.
And you can actually, now I can sense their body with it, connected to it, not me just putting an applicator on it. And that's
Exactly.
probably the
Exactly.
biggest thing I got from the training was, this is just an extension of what I do every day.
Yeah.
And and when you feel that body release in a certain area, you just know instantly that, oh, I got it. And it's just a great feeling as a practitioner. You know that
Yeah.
their body just, you remove their interference, remove their subluxation, and their body is better right now. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
huge. With the instruments, it's an extension of you. It's not,
exactly.
it's not
Exactly.
something that's you're just putting on and walking away.
Exactly. It's, like any tool. It's good. It is as good as you know how to use it.
Yeah.
One advantage with the shockwave, especially with the focal shockwave, both, even the radial, but focal, it's more sensitive. You can even diagnose with it. So what I mean by that is like when you go on those deep muscles that you cannot actually palpate them properly, when the
Mm-hmm.
sound hits the injured tissue, it's going to have a different feedback of the client. It's different type of pain, and you see actually respond, and it just
Yeah.
confirms that, hey, this is the spot. And then you start treating. If it's a trigger point, it starts actually melting almost like instantly. You can tell, and that's why that's why I emphasize, like, from all the hands-on training, my biggest goal is, if you just learn how to hold the handpiece properly,
Mm-hmm.
forget the
Yeah.
protocols, like forget anything else. If you just learn how to handle the handpiece properly, that's actually the biggest change that makes it on everything, because then it becomes an extension of your hand. You actually
Right.
start feeling through the handpiece and not just doing a passive treatment. It's like, okay, this is 2000 shocks here, just do it, and I don't care what happens.
Right.
So
Yeah. So now I'm not there. I saw the insight of that, which makes me
yeah,
excited. So now that when I go back and work with my patients, there's more intention there, and I
yeah,
enjoy my job more because
yeah,
it's just like when I do an adjustment, it's that same connection.
yeah, yeah. Well, Rick,
And
yeah.
and you have to
Okay.
remove your clothes before you put it on, right?
I know. Oh my God, it's like we can talk all day all about like shockwave stories that I've heard. Like I've heard, there were practitioners that were using part of a handpiece just like over clothes, because that just tells you like how poor, the
Right.
training was, or the advice is. And we don't expect, a salesperson, it's a salesperson. They know how to sell,
Yeah.
how to
Yeah.
give you the device in a way, but then training is a whole different story. And I shared this even yesterday. I remember I went 2015 or 16 to this clinic in downtown Toronto, beautiful clinic, and the radial pressure wave was collecting dust because they were treating tennis elbow with an applicator that is more for hamstrings or like big muscles. And that applicator is so powerful that if you use that on a tennis elbow, people would literally faint from the pain. So then practitioner was scared. People were like screaming, yelling, not coming back. And it's just the clinic decided to just leave the device. And it's, to me, oh my God, this is your biggest asset that you have, and it's collecting dust because you don't know how to use it.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay,
It's
Rick, I
smart to
think,
be
yeah,
educated, right?
I know. I know. Let's probably call it a day for today, because after this is more for just, again, practitioners, to give them a general idea of what shockwave is. And then we're going to do another session after this with you, which is going to be more like the business aspect. And that's completely separate. And I know you have to take a flight, and then
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
some recording to do later on. So
Yeah.
we'll
No.
probably do another podcast like this, a year later, and just to kind of compare it to, okay, you're, because I love it, man, how you actually, you're an action taker, and you went, radial, EMTT, you got the focal, things are changing, you're all in into this,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's just beautiful,
Yeah. Yeah. It's very
truly
exciting. Yeah.
beautiful.
We're excited to just to help a lot of people and educate them that there's other options than just doing pain management,
Yeah, yeah.
which should
So Eric, where if let's say if a patient, if a client is listening into the podcast and it's not a healthcare provider, where could people actually find you? Where do you practice? What's the name of your practice?
we're in our practices in Denver, Colorado,
Okay.
and it's in like the in kind of downtown the Denver proper area. You can reach us at 303-758-3395. We have our practice is Journey Chiropractic and Regen 3. Regen 3 is the Shockwave portion, and Journey Chiropractic is the chiropractic. And we are working on integrating that right now. That's some of the stuff we're going to be talking with you next on the business side. But you can text message me directly, and I will put you in touch with, and I'll even give you my cell phone, 303 257 2878, especially for practitioners. If you want to get in touch with me, that's the best way. Any questions about Shockwave, I'd love to share all my time and energy and stories with you. And if you're looking to get into this, or if you are into it and you have questions, I reach out to a ton of people. I'd love to return that favor and text me.
Yeah. You're truly amazing human. So thank you. And I always say there's no coincidence, there's a synchronicity.
Yeah.
So it's all coming together. So let's help more and more people by sharing our personal experiences, our personal knowledge. And nowadays, look at this knowledge, it's free. In a way, it's just if you want to achieve that, you have to do
Yeah.
the journey by yourself. Nobody's
Yeah.
going to come and take your hand and do it. But
Yeah.
even this time that we took to share our personal experiences, it's hopefully it does good for the world. It shocks and it stimulates a brain cell, a neuron, and a stem cell, and wherever it ends.
Yeah. And thank you for all your work that you do for us too, Uran.
Yeah.
We all greatly appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you, Eric. Great pleasure, man. Okay, I'll see you in a bit.
Okay. Bye bye.